Yeah, the big thing that makes my blood boil when I hear my office staff not even try to save a drop. I can't handle that. I can't handle that. So if you aren't tracking the reason people are dropping, then you are kind of flying blind because there could be a big glaring, like big issue, a big hole in your business that you have no idea um, what it is. Like it could be a teacher, it could be a studio, it could be so many different things. It could be your office staff. Um, I mean, you don't know. It could be your location, could be your parking lot. Like there could be a lot of reasons people are quitting. If they're just quitting and quit, and your drop rate just keeps going up, and you're like, what is going on? Why are people drop? If you don't ask the reason, and now when I say that too, by the way, sometimes you got to pry a little bit, a little bit. You got to pry a little bit because people won't always tell you the real reason. So generally a good response when somebody says, hey, I want to drop, it's like, oh, what's going on? Like, how are the lessons going? Just kind of conversational. It's like, how are lessons going with your teacher? What's been going on in the lessons? Is there something I can do to like help you solve the problem? Like try to draw them out a little bit, enter into a conversation. When you sit behind the desk, sometimes it gets really chaotic and busy and people are pulling at you and tugging at you and it's like, but somebody calls and they say something like that. Everything's got to pause. Okay, hold on a second. Push everybody else away. Tell me about this. Tell me about what's going on. How are lessons going? Let's start there. Let's start a conversation. This is not like you're not letting them just get out of this relationship with you without a conversation. I think that's maybe a good way of looking at it. You want them to tell you. It's like any relationship with somebody. They're like, I want to end my relationship with you. Oh, okay. Well, what's going on? What's going on? Obviously, there's a problem. Otherwise, you wouldn't be ending the relationship with me. So can we talk about this? Like, let's have a conversation, so think of it maybe a little bit like that. I think that's kind of instructive. So sometimes they won't tell you, so you got to pry a little bit. But I think when you open up the conversation, you just like, hey, what's wrong? Like, what can I do? The two most common reasons that we've found people drop is that they're not interested. They're just not interested anymore. And they're too busy. It's scheduling. And that's those. So those are the really common ones. So there's a lot of solutions to each of those, but it's very important for you to think about this. If those are the top two reasons people are quitting, what are some solutions to those two? That's a good question to ask, right? Like, that's a really good question to ask. And it's a good thing to brainstorm with your office staff or anybody whoever's answering your phones. Those are some good questions to ask. Like, so how can we solve a problem? If somebody's not interested, what can we do to make them more interested? How can we help them be more interested? How can we change the environment for them so that they can become more interested? Like, there's a lot of things you can do, right? There's new programs, new teachers, all kinds of different environments. There's things you can do to help them become more interested or at least offer to them to try. There's reward programs. There's ways to keep them in. There's ways to give them opportunities to perform. A lot of things you can do, but they're not going to do any of it unless you start asking the right questions and you start brainstorming with your staff about how you can solve the problem. That's a good question to find the answer to. So think about that. The number two reason is they're too busy. Well, that just really comes down to scheduling. It's all about scheduling. And the more flexible you can be with your scheduling, the more flexible you can be with your openings and the different options and alternatives you can give them, the more likely you can solve their problem. So this is all about solving problems. It's all about solving problems. And the better you can be at this, the more you're going to see a lot of people sticking around because it's like, oh, Well, they always seem to have a good answer. They always seem to have a solution to my issue. So I'm just going to give them a call. So like I said, I think knowing this helps you. It helps your staff certainly, right? It helps your staff certainly. So you should be tracking. You should be anytime people want to quit, they want to drop out. You should be asking them and really trying to enter into that conversation. Ask a lot of questions about how things are going, and believe me, they will tell you. It really is amazing how much people will tell you. And sometimes like becomes a little miniature counseling session. At least it feels that way sometimes. But you're just a problem solver. That's what you are. You're a problem solver. And the better you can get at that, at solving those specific problems, the more success you're going to have in saving students, which makes you more profitable.